I think we owe a further duty to try to dig deeper, notwithstanding the obvious, to try to figure out the why.
Following Tuesday's domestic homicide outside of a Calgary elementary school, there are calls for more action to be taken to support victims of domestic violence, including calls on the federal government to look at changes within the criminal code.
Everything is on the table. We will absolutely evaluate every single one of these circumstances. We will look at our options. I know that there are jurisdictional challenges that we have. Certainly there are federal issues in relation to the criminal code and strengthening the penalties involved. We're certainly advocating with our federal counterparts day to day.
Court information provided to City News shows the offender had multiple charges for failing to comply with a release order and unlawfully harassing and stalking. By all accounts, the victim did everything she could within the system to protect herself.
It looks like everybody did what they needed to do. I think when it comes to situations like this, it's complicated and there's various systems that work in concert with one another. And in my experience, where there's been gaps, that's at the margins.
Calgary Police Chief Mark Neufeld says that CPS is strongly recommending that the Provincial Family Violence Death Review Committee look into what happened. The committee looks at two areas, focusing on what could have prevented the escalation of violence and what gaps there are in the system.
I think it's all about looking at a review, like a systemic review of the history of the family, what contacts they had with the various different systems, where there were supports, maybe where there weren't, maybe where they were accessed, where they weren't. I think these are all things that it's way too early for us to know.
He adds everyone has a right to bail, and under the justice system, people are innocent until proven guilty. But a criminal justice professor from Mount Royal University says there are other ideas being considered on how to protect victims of domestic violence.
We could do it with geographical GPS monitoring. As soon as a person comes within contact of that person's space, work, home, what have you, of their children's schools, the alarms go off and then people come and attend.
Alberta's Minister of Justice saying there need to be solutions.
We know that when the federal government introduced Bill C-75, there was a remarkable shift in the amount of criminals that were being released. And we find that to be quite concerning. We've been advocating for years now that stronger bail reforms have to take place.
Chief Neufeld adding that if there is a provincial review, there is no timeline on when it might be completed. In Calgary, Jillian Code, City News.